Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I think a lot of you at home are going to be quite annoyed with this. Now, Tesco, the big supermarket chain, appears to have got rid of the famous Christmas trees, instead renaming them evergreen
trees.
There's
the evergreen tree.
Here we are. So if you're listening on the radio, these are pictures of their boxes of artificial Christmas trees without the word Christmas on them at all, instead calling them evergreen trees. There are still a number of Christmas trees available called Christmas trees. But I think it has clearly annoyed quite a lot of people. Why do you call them evergreen trees? Can't you just call them Christmas?
Just call them Christmas trees. I call them Christmas trees even outside of the time of Christmas. If they look like a Christmas tree, I call them a Christmas tree, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And the Conservative leader of the London Assembly, Susan Hall, she's told The Telegraph, it's Christmas. It's a Christmas tree. People don't tend to put up green plastic fir trees for any other reason. It's all stupid nonsense about offending other people and other religions. Well, below that, this is supposed to be a Christian country. We have Christmas. Let's celebrate it, says Susan Hall.
Actually, other religions are not offended by the celebration of Christmas in a Christian country. You speak to Hindus and Buddhists and the vast majority of Muslims, they're not in the slightest bit bothered and actually will join in those celebrations as well. It doesn't offend them. But what you've got are marketing divisions within these big companies where you've got Tarquin and Tabitha who feel that we must, you know, do what we can do to not offend the great British public. And the great British public are the ones that are actually buying the product and they're not in the slightest bit offended.
Can I just say it offends me that we've got Christmas already and it's not December.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live and they'll hear loads of questions being asked and they'll be thinking, that's not my question, that's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name's Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning and welcome to the Camilla Tominey Show. We've had the biggest event of the political year, that's right, the budget. And what a week it's been. We've got a bumper show lined up with reaction from a leading businessman and all three major parties. From the government, Treasury Minister James Murray will join me. How does he respond to the growing accusations that Rachel Reeves misled the House and the British public as well as the markets as justification for her tax-hiking budget? One critics say rewards shirkers rather than workers, and can she really stay in post? For the opposition, I'll be speaking to Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch for her response. Can the Tories really criticise the budget given the state of the economy that they left behind? Plus, I'll be speaking to the Lib Dems Treasury spokesperson Daisy Cooper to get her party's reaction. I'll also be asking her why the Lib Dems are so determined to attack Nigel Farage rather than holding the government to account. And while we're on the subject of Nigel Farage, we'll be joined by Reform UK's Deputy Leader Richard Tice. We'll hear his response to serious allegations this week concerning his leader's alleged anti-Semitic behaviour at Dulwich School, alongside, of course, his take on the budget. And finally, legendary publican Sir Tim Martin, founder of Wetherspoons, joins me to explain what the budget means for the hospitality industry and business in general. As ever, another packed 90 minutes to come, so do not even think of going anywhere. As you can imagine, the Sunday papers are brimming with stories about Rachel Reeves, the budget, and a lot more besides. So joining me to discuss what is making the headlines is former political editor of The Sun, Trevor Kavanagh. Trevor!
Hi, Camilla.
What a week it's been.
What 18 months it's been.
I know. What a few years it's been since Brexit, I think we can both agree. Let's go straight to the front of the Sunday Telegraph. And this is the revelation that the Prime Minister also knew that there was no black hole for Rachel Reeves to plug with her tax rises. What do you make of it all?
Well, it's almost impossible to really summarise this, the scale of this deceit. But it's the trademark of this government, and the manifesto of the next election must be for Labour lies, damn lies, and Labour budget speeches, because we know now that the Office of Budget Responsibility, which is lauded by both the Tories and the Labour Party, warned and advised Rachel Reeves before she made that dramatic speech that she had more money than she needed.
Yeah, so she made the speech on November the 4th, but on October the 31st, the OBR tells her, actually, there's no black hole, you've got a £4.2 billion surplus. But she doesn't choose to share that with the public and instead pushes through tax rises. Now, I'm going to be speaking to James Murray. I think he's going to make the argument, as the Chancellor has on other broadcasters this morning, doesn't want to come on GB News, can't imagine why, thinks she's probably fit. But he's going to make the point, I think, well, she had to put up taxes because she didn't have enough fiscal headroom.
Well, she had, obviously, from what the Office of Budget Responsibility told her in advance, plenty of headroom, plenty of room to move without raising taxes at all. And yet, a few days later, she's moving the markets by saying that there will be tax rises and the people with the broadest shoulders must carry the burden. So, and also the Prime Minister was advised at the same time. They were in this together.
Yes.
So there's no excuse for what she's saying and doing. And indeed, I think the Conservative Party and others are quite right in demanding that she faces justice on this, because she has not only lied to Parliament, as far as we can see, but she's also misled the markets, which is, I think, for a Chancellor of the Exchequer, or as the Sun branded her last week, the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Yes.
This is almost a criminal act. And
well, I think the Observer has described her as being, quotes, economical with the truth, which is quite a nice play on words. Dan Hodges in the Mail on Sunday is making the point that if she is investigated by the Financial Conduct Authority, if they find that she in public office has misled the markets, then they could impose unlimited fines or, Trevor, a custodial sentence.
Yes, it's unlikely to come to that.
Well, I was going to say, is that going too far? She could be jailed.
I think it's unlikely. Nobody's ever been jailed for this sort of thing before, even during the economic crisis. But I think this hanging over her head like a bad smell will not go away. I mean, you can understand why she was in tears in the House of Commons, because this was building way back then.
Yes.
She had a clear picture of where she stood earlier than the Office of Budget Responsibility report. And she has been in deep trouble throughout all of this because she has misled herself and the public.
And what do the public think of it, Trevor? Your paper, The Sun, is putting polling in favour of Rachel Reeves at an all-time low. The public don't now have confidence in the Chancellor, I think this survey has shown.
Yes, I mean, 51% say that she's doing a bad job, and 77% say they have no faith or confidence in her. That's a damning response from ordinary punters, people who are actually at the sharp end of what she delivered in her budget speech, the welfare reforms. These are the people, our readers, who I think we regard as the hard-working backbone of the population.
Working
they get up in the morning.
People, the white van drivers, as we used to describe them, who had a copy of The Sun rolled up on the dashboard.
Yeah. And they don't like seeing people earning more in benefits than they do when they're trying to maintain a household and keep a roof over their head.
Well, this is the thing, right? So Labour constantly seek to remind us that they are the party of the worker. The Sunday Express is carrying a quite extraordinary headline that is born out of a report by the Centre for Social Justice, the CSJ, which is the think tank that was co-founded by Ian Duncan Smith and Tim Montgomery.
Highly respected think tank.
Highly respected think tank, which is basically making the point that a family of 5 would need to be earning £71,000 to compete with a family of 5 on benefits. So if you're on minimum wage, there is no way at all that you can compete with what you could get in benefits, not least now the 2-child cap has been scrapped.
Exactly. I mean, this is absolutely stupendous statistics. 71,000 was once regarded as a wealthy, not long ago, a wealthy earning
well, it still is. It still should be, Trevor.
Family.
It's well above minimum wage, isn't it? 71 grand. A household income of 71 grand should be sufficient to support that family.
And indeed, people are seeing this. And we had a story in The Sun last week in which we were interviewing single mums who had a couple of children and who were determined to have 2 or 3 more so that their income would rise above £30,000. That's a lot of money for a couple in order to get that after paying tax and national insurance. And
But if the system rewards this, so because one has to put oneself in the position of the single mum with 2 or 3 kids, if she can earn, I think Fraser Nelson revealed this in a documentary for Channel 4 Dispatches, and I remember the figure. The lady openly said, look, once I add up my universal credit and my other benefits and entitlements and my rent being covered, I'm actually on a salary of 36 grand. Where I live, it was a part of the north. I think it was a seaside town. I've no hope at all when I have to care for the children by myself because I don't have a partner. There's no way at all I can earn the equivalent in the local economy. You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
no, I mean, you have perverse consequences of political decisions. And the idea that this government is being kind to people who are hard up, when in fact what we need to do is encourage them into work, not into benefits.
Yes.
That's where the pride in your weekly activity is working, keeping a family properly, and you do actually get self-respect out of that. I think that this is what this government should be striving for. It's supposed to be a socialist government. Well, it is a socialist government, and it should be looking at the people that it's supposed to be paying for it. Getting them into work is what this government, Labour government, is supposed to be about.
Final story, Trevor, because I know James Murray, who is the Chief Secretary of the Treasury, is waiting in the wings, and we do want to hear from him on the budget. Just a final thought on 2 different stories. First of all, the Mail on Sunday say that Trump thinks that Keir Starmer won't go the distance and is hoping he has a part of his presidency, which also includes Nigel Farage as Prime Minister. Hold that thought. The other story that was of great interest to you is the University of Cambridge saying what about reform?
Yes, and indeed they're not going to. They're going to allow reform to have its say and be represented in Cambridge debates. Now, this is a big leap forward for Cambridge. It's a big leap forward for the woke education system, and the endorsement from President Trump may well come true because I don't think this government is going to last the distance. So we could have a general election within the next 2 or 3 years, and if that were to be the case at the present, Nigel Farage would be the next Prime Minister.
Also, if you're at Cambridge, you're worried about 2 things, aren't you? A crackdown on student visas, which means that you don't get overseas students paying much higher tuition fees, which then affects your finances, and also any change to the funding model at all. I mean, Farage could come in and say anything about the number of people going to university and all the rest of it, Trevor.
And indeed, the Cambridge decision to recognise reform shows that they're in a state of panic and realise their time may be up.
Trevor Kavanagh, thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning to go through the papers. As I say, I've got James Murray waiting in the wings to come on the show. He's the Chief Secretary to the Treasury. He's Rachel Reeves' right-hand man. What's he got to say about the mythical black hole in the budget? Do stay tuned.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Hello there, and this is your holiday forecast from the Met Office. It's a little bit changeable across Europe over the next week or so. We do have a few showers across the Canary Islands to begin with, but some nice bright sunshine for Spain, maybe just feeling a little bit cooler than normal here. For northern Italy, we do have some heavier showers to begin with, and we do have some nice bright sunnier spells for Greece. Now, it does remain a bit unchangeable over the next few days, but for Tenerife, the temperatures are slowly on the rise.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. The Chief Secretary to the Treasury, James Murray, joins me now. Mr. Murray, lovely to see you.
Good morning.
It's great to see you as ever because you often come in here and take one for the team. But where's the Chancellor?
Well, the Chancellor's been giving some other interviews this morning and
Yes.
she'll be working today as she does every day of the week.
It's unbelievable, isn't it, that in the nearly 3 years I've done this show, she hasn't once appeared.
Well, I hope you like having me on the show, and I work very closely with the Chancellor.
It's a really critical weekend, isn't it? And GB News listeners and viewers pay tax. They've now been saddled with ever higher bills, seemingly on the basis of a lie. So let me ask you this, Mr. Murray. What was the bigger con, the Chancellor's CV or this budget?
No, look, what this budget set out to do was to cut the cost of living, keep cutting NHS waiting lists and cut government borrowing, and that's exactly what it did. Now, that meant that we had to take some decisions, the right and necessary decisions, but decisions when it came to taxation. But we did that in a way that kept the burden on working people as low as possible. And that meant that we were able to, as I said, cut the cost of living with £150 off energy bills, to keep cutting NHS waiting lists and to cut government borrowing. Because at the moment, £1 in £10 of taxpayers' money is spent servicing the interest from debt.
Yes.
That's got to change, and that's what this budget set out to do.
Right, OK. Let's just get down to the nuts and bolts of this. We've got a Chancellor who lied in her CV. We then got a Chancellor who lied in the manifesto saying that taxes wouldn't go up. Taxes have gone up. We then had a lie that they wouldn't be imposed on working people. Now she's been revealed to have lied about the reason for putting tax up. So it was a complete and utter deceit, not just of Parliament, not just of the markets, but of the general public, in claiming that you had to put taxes up because you had this black hole that didn't actually exist. There was no black hole because the OBR had turned round to the Chancellor on October the 31st and said, actually, you're more than £4 billion in surplus. Why did she lie about the existence of a black hole?
She didn't. And
yes, she
I reject your claims. And can I tell you
How?
why? Let me tell you why. Because what the OBR set out at the end of October in their forecast, firstly, it set out clearly that there had been a productivity downgrade of £16 billion. Now, going into the budget process, we also knew we wanted to get headroom up, and that headroom is critical to helping to get the cost of government borrowing and to getting mortgages down. So we went into the budget with those priorities, and the Chancellor set them out. She set out in her speech in early November that we needed more headroom, that everyone was going to be asked to make a contribution, and that our priorities in the budget would be to cut the cost of living, cut NHS waiting lists, and cut that government borrowing.
But she didn't put this down on the 4th of November when she held that emergency speech early in the morning. Kemi Badenoch referenced it in her response to the budget. You know, we are interrupting your Cheerios with this dire announcement. She said there'd been a productivity downgrade.
Which there had been, of £16 billion.
OK, and she claimed, and you have all claimed, that there was this black hole, a black hole in Britain's finances. There isn't a black hole in Britain's finances if the OBR has turned round to the Chancellor 4 days before she made this scaremongering speech and told her actually she's £4.2 billion in surplus. She could have said, I want to increase my fiscal headroom, therefore I need to increase taxes. She didn't say that, so she's lied to the public, she's lied to Parliament, and she has misled the markets, which is a very serious offence.
I'm sorry, I really have to jump in here because look at what the Chancellor actually said in her speech in early November. You know, you're assigning phrases to what the Chancellor said. Look at what she actually said in
Officials let it be known that the OBR productivity downgrade would blow a hole of 20 billion or more in the Chancellor's fiscal plans. So are you now saying the officials are lying on behalf of the Chancellor? You're saying that officials didn't tell us that there was a 20 billion black hole in the finances. That was what was briefed by the Chancellor's own people. She said in her speech on the 4th of November, she played up the economy's dire state, nurturing expectations of a manifesto-breaking tax raid. We'll all have to contribute, she said. She said that the situation had changed. I'm sorry, she said, I can't account for this, what I would like the situation to be. I've got to account for what it is. But the situation was different to what she presented because she actually had £4.2 billion in the coffers, not a 20 billion black hole as had been briefed.
Look, I'm really glad you're giving me a chance to address exactly what the Chancellor said in that speech in early November. And what she said in that speech in early November was that everyone would have to make a contribution because there was an impact in terms of the productivity downgrade, the productivity review that the OBR was looking at. And she was clear that her priorities would be to cut NHS waiting lists, to cut the cost of living and to cut government borrowing. So she was very clear about the challenges that she was facing and the principles that she would approach the budget with. And may I say one more thing, because this is really important. Because imagine if I had been coming on your show this morning and we'd only have had headroom of a few £1 billion, you would rightly say to me, James, that is completely unacceptable.
No, what's unacceptable?
That does not give you a buffer. That does not give us the protection we need in the public finances. What we needed to do was to get the headroom up, and that's exactly what we did.
Let's talk about what's unacceptable. What's unacceptable is for the public parliament and the markets to be misled with officials briefing about a 20 billion black hole. Things people the Chancellor blamed for black holes. Brexit, Donald Trump, Liz Truss. There was no black hole. You had 4.2 billion in the coffers and you didn't tell the public. Why didn't you tell the public?
I'm sorry, but
why didn't you tell the public about that surplus?
We were absolutely upfront with the public about the fact that there had been a productivity. We're absolutely upfront with the public about the challenges that we faced in early November.
Why didn't the Chancellor tell the public on November the 4th, 4 days after she'd been told by the OBR she had 4.2 billion in the coffers? Why didn't she tell anyone?
That was still an OBR forecast before any measures had been considered. So any measures had not been considered
she tell
by that stage.
the public that she was in surplus, not in deficit at that point?
What she told the public
and the
was
PM
that we
knew
faced,
this as well.
What we told the public was that we were facing challenges because of the OBR downgrading productivity, and what that forecast told us was that that was the case to the tune of £16 billion. So the productivity downgrade, which is the result of the mishandling of Brexit, of the austerity of the previous government, that had an impact on public finances to the tune of £16 billion. And we had to, and it was critical to us.
So you're selective with the information. You are selective with the information that you are giving to the public, Parliament and the markets because you decide to keep secret the fact that the OBR had told the Chancellor she had 4.2 billion.
No, we said that the public finances...
When did you tell us you had 4.2 billion?
Look, the Chancellor, the government ministers...
You didn't tell us.
Government ministers do not give a running commentary of every round of forecasting.
Oh, they give a running commentary to justify tax rises.
They do not give a running commentary of the numbers.
So they tell the public the information they want to release, but don't tell the public that they've actually got £4.2 billion in the coffers.
So look, the budget process is an iterative process between the OBR and Treasury in terms of exchanging forecasts and figures and then measures from the Treasury. What the Chancellor chose to do in early November was to be upfront with people about the fact that we were facing a big hit because of productivity being reviewed, and that was the case to the tune of £16 billion, that we needed to increase headroom, that the headroom was really important.
But the OBR said in the end there was only a 2.6 billion, 2.5 billion shortfall. You still haven't answered the question. Why did she keep the 4.2 billion she had in surplus secret?
That was part of the iterative process between the OBR and the Treasury, but she made very clear in early November the challenges that we face.
Not revealing information is in itself misleading. Do you understand that?
She did.
Okay.
She did in early November say that we face these challenges, and she was clear about the challenges we face and the principles which she'd approach the budget with.
You've breached the manifesto because you've put taxes up, haven't you?
No.
What?
No.
Are you for real?
Yes.
You told the people in the manifesto, the Labour manifesto, that you are only going to put taxes up by 8.5 billion. You've actually, between the last budget and this budget, put it up by 66 billion, including 26 on Wednesday. And you're telling me you didn't breach the manifesto?
We said in the manifesto that we would keep taxes on working people as low as possible, and that's exactly what we've done.
Mr. Murray, you aren't seriously telling me that after a £26 billion tax raid, largely to pay for welfare, which is people on benefits, some of whom who work, many that don't, that you're not taxing working people in the budget?
No, we are asking working people to make a contribution.
So you are taxing working people?
We are asking working people to make...
So you've broken the manifesto?
No. Let me just explain this really clearly, right?
I think I've explained it clearly and you are obfuscating.
Can I respond to it? Because what we said in the budget, what the Chancellor was really upfront about, is that we are asking everyone to make a contribution through the extension of the freezes to thresholds. But we're also clear that we are keeping the tax burden on working people as low as we possibly can because of other changes that we've made.
That is an extraordinary fudge. You're saying that you can honour the manifesto commitment because you haven't directly put taxes up on working people, because you haven't actually put up income tax, even though she floated the idea on November the 4th, despite knowing that she had 4.2 billion in the coffers. And you're saying, no, it's not technically a tax rise because we're doing it by stealth, by freezing the thresholds for another 3 years.
No, I'm sorry.
£26 billion in taxes on working people is a tax on working people.
There's no stealth tax if you say it there in Parliament what you're doing. She was completely upfront about what she was doing. The manifesto said we wouldn't increase the rates of income tax and national insurance on workers. We didn't do that. What the manifesto also said is we would keep the tax burden on working people as low as possible, and that's what we've done.
In Britain, who pays tax?
Well, people pay it on all sorts of things. People pay it on their work, people pay it on property income, people on dividends, people pay it on savings,
so
people pay it on the property. There's lots of different things people tax on.
Workers pay tax, correct? If the tax bill has gone up by 26 billion, workers are being taxed, aren't they, Mr. Murray?
We are asking everyone to make a contribution.
So you have broken the manifesto?
No, because the manifesto said we would not increase those rates of income tax and national insurance on working people, and that we would keep the tax burden on working people as low as possible.
The other lie in the manifesto and indeed the budget is the idea that you are in any way cutting welfare. Welfare is actually going up by another 70 billion, and by the end of the Parliament will be 403 billion. So you're doing nothing to cut benefits at all.
Well, look, we started...
The rebellion was just, showmanship.
We started the process of reforming welfare. Earlier in the year, we agreed that we were going to change universal credit so it never pays to be off sick rather than in work. And then in the budget last week, we set out changes to Motability to make sure that people can't get a luxury car on that system.
Can we agree that the welfare bill will go up by the end of the Parliament, not down?
Well, what we can agree on, I hope, is that the welfare system needs to change. And that's what we're going to do over this Parliament.
Mr Murray, is the welfare bill going up or down by the end of the Parliament?
Well, the overall welfare bill as a proportion of GDP is broadly stable, but we need to make sure that it works. We need to make sure that it works, and it needs to change. It needs to change. Look, if you're asking me, are we done on reforming welfare? Absolutely not. The welfare system needs to change. We've begun the processes of reform in what we did earlier this year with the universal credit, what we're doing now with Motability and fraud and error and getting young people into work, but we need to do more, and that's why the welfare system needs to change.
The welfare bill's going up, isn't it? I just need confirmation that that's a yes, because I can see the figures in front of me.
Well, the figures are set out in the budget
Welfare's
documents.
Going up.
But look,
is it going up, yes or no? Because we've got to finish.
Well, the welfare bill overall as a proportion of GDP is broadly stable, but it needs to change.
She said growth is my number one mission, growth at 1.5%.
Which is an upgrade from 1%.
James Murray, thank you very much for joining me this morning. Coming up next, I'm going to be speaking to Camilla Badenoch, Richard Tice, and getting the reaction from leading businessman Tim Martin.
It's the greatest cash prize of a Great British giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
The new guidelines instruct visa officers to reject applicants who may be eligible for public benefits as part of the President's hardline crackdown on immigration, all to prevent people becoming dependent on those public benefits and draining the US resources.
So with an increasing obesity problem in the UK, should the UK follow Trump and ban visas for fat people?
Well, joining us now is the body positivity influencer and actor George Keywood and the former presenter of Fat Families, Steve Miller. Steve, I think I might know what you think about this one. Let's kick off with you.
Well, I think this is great. I think this is Trump using common sense. This is Trump putting his country first. And wouldn't that be a breath of fresh air if we had it in the UK? Of course, you know, by encouraging people that are too fat and have already got medical conditions, serious medical conditions, coming into your country, what I'm saying is, it is a common sense factor, because the likelihood is that they're going to cost your country a lot of money. And let's face it, the taxpayer is already under stress. The NHS is knackered. And do you know how much it costs per year to look after someone with diabetes? It costs up to £3,000 a year. So no, we're bust. We can't afford it. So Trump's policy is something absolutely we should adopt. It's common sense, and I think most British people would agree.
George Keywood, what do you think? Is he being unfair?
Well, I'm British and I completely disagree. It's absolute nonsense, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, Jesus Christ. Are we getting to the point where we're saying that fat people can't go in a country? I mean, it's just absolutely ludicrous. And it's something that I expect for somebody like that to say.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning and welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show. Lots more still to come this morning. Liberal Democrat Treasury spokesperson Daisy Cooper will join me. What's her reaction to Labour's bruising budget week? Leader of the Conservatives, Camilla Badenoch, also joins me. She's called on Rachel Reeves to resign. But who does she think ought to replace her? We're going to get further budget reaction from Reform UK's Deputy Leader, Richard Tice, who has described the budget as job-destroying. But do reform also have answers to Britain's problems? And are the Chancellor's decisions impacting businesses? Founder and chair of Wetherspoons Pubs, Sir Tim Martin, joins me. But first, here's your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Camilla, thank you. Good morning. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories at 10 o'clock. The Chancellor has once again defended her budget and denied misleading the public about the size of the fiscal gap in order to raise taxes. Rachel Reeves is under increasing pressure after the Office for Budget Responsibility revealed they informed the Treasury that the gap in public finances was likely far smaller than the 20 billion she had suggested, and at one point that they forecast the economy to be in surplus. Leaders in the Conservative Party have been calling for Rachel Reeves to resign, but she is adamant the tax rises in the budget were necessary.
If I had come on this programme today and said at the end of my budget there's a £4.2 billion surplus, you would have said, and rightly so, that's just not enough, is it, Chancellor? And you would have been right, because we did need to build more resilience into our fiscal position. A £4.2 billion headroom would have been the lowest headroom against the fiscal rules that any Chancellor had ever delivered.
4 people have been killed and 10 others injured in a mass shooting at a child's birthday party in California. Officials say children are among the fatalities. Police were called to a banquet hall in Stockton, around 60 miles east of San Francisco yesterday evening. It's understood the attacker is still at large, and police say that the motive is unclear. The district attorney for the area, Ron Freitas, says that when the person responsible is caught, they will face the full force of the law. The government is set to announce this week major reforms to the criminal justice system in England and Wales, including reducing the number of trials by jury. Reports suggest juries will only pass judgment on rape, murder, manslaughter and public interest cases, while other offences will be heard by a judge. The Justice Secretary, David Lammy, says the plans will cut huge backlogs in Crown courts, which are currently at a record high at around 80,000. And David Lammy says the changes aim to put victims first, saving them from years of torment and delay. And the King and Queen have paid tribute to the playwright Sir Tom Stoppard, who they've described as a dear friend who wore his genius lightly. The screenwriter, who won an Oscar and a Golden Globe for Shakespeare in Love, has died at the age of 88. In a statement, the royals said they're deeply saddened by the news and have expressed their heartfelt sympathies to his family. You're up to date. Now let's get back to Camilla.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Bethany. Joining me now is the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Daisy Cooper. We love seeing you on my show. The Lib Dems are sometimes reluctant to do GB News.
Oh, I'm not.
You're not.
I'm always here.
We're happy to see you, so thank you very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Now, I know you've been running from studio to studio. We just spoke to the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, James Murray. He seems to be saying that there's no problem that Rachel Reeves kept this £4.2 billion of surplus secret on November the 4th when she gave her, let's call it her scaremongering Cheerios speech, as we all now recognise it, early in the morning, warning that tax rises were coming, because she just wanted to do that to increase her fiscal headroom. I then pointed out to him that it was a complete deceit and a lie to make out that there was a 20 billion black hole in the finances when there wasn't. He is trying to justify it as saying, well, the Chancellor has to make choices depending on the information she receives at the time. What's your reaction to that excuse? Because I didn't find it particularly credible. I made the point to Mr Murray, why didn't she tell us that we were 4.2 billion in surplus at the end of October?
Yeah. So I think the Chancellor has got some very serious questions to answer, and I really hope that she comes herself to Parliament tomorrow to answer questions from members of Parliament rather than sending another minister in her stead. Honestly, the government obviously is democratically elected, the government can make decisions. The government can make those choices. But I think that, if she's got one piece of information and then goes out and says that something else is happening, that's very destabilising for confidence of households and of the market. So she's got very serious questions to answer about why on earth she went out there to do that pre-budget speech, which is almost unheard of in this country. We don't have that system in place. I do think there are broader questions about whether the entire budget process is fit for purpose. I think it isn't. I think the public would benefit from there being far more transparency and to adopt a system where we see a draft budget and then we have proper debate over a period of time.
More transparency than we had over the last 6 weeks of pitch rolling of a budget. We're going to put up tax. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to freeze thresholds. Almost every aspect of that budget was leaked in some way or the other. Now, a previous Chancellor, Hugh Dalton, had to resign when he went to the pub with a journalist and leaked one aspect of the budget he was about to deliver. So you want more transparency. How much transparency do you want?
Look, I don't think leaks are transparency, because don't forget that amongst all those leaks, many of those leaks have come to pass, but many of them haven't. And so the public were left not knowing which taxes would go up, which ones wouldn't, whether there was going to be an overhaul of particular tax systems, whether other ones were going to be would just be left to have tinkering around the edges. What I would like to see is a budget that is published up front as a draft budget, rather than just giving MPs 4 days to debate that budget. We should have, some serious time to debate it properly, to see all the different arguments, so you can tease out the differences between, say, the Treasury and the OBR.
Then you're in danger, perhaps, of a budget being tweaked to the disgruntlement of backbenchers. I mean, that's already been the case with the last one.
That was going to be my last.
Well, I was going to say, and then to the disgruntlement of rival MPs. Why aren't you calling for the Chancellor and indeed the PM, if he knew about the surplus and also didn't tell the public, to resign?
Because I think that the Chancellor needs to come and answer questions in the House of Commons first.
Hang on a minute, Daisy Cooper. How many times in the last Parliament did you repeatedly call for the likes of Boris Johnson and then Rishi Sunak and indeed Liz Truss to resign? Why are you only ever calling for people on the right to resign and not people on the left? Surely if the Chancellor has lied to the public, lied to politicians, lied to the House and misled the markets, it's a resignation offence, open and shut.
Look, in the last Parliament, I think there were very, very good reasons as to why we did call for Boris Johnson and Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak to resign. And if you look,
why were you calling for Rishi Sunak to resign? What did he have to resign over?
I can't remember whether maybe it wasn't him. It was probably many of the other ministers.
Hang on a minute. You'd called for so many people to resign that you can't remember why you called for them to resign.
Well, let's remember the last Parliament was in such chaos.
Was it because he was fined for Partygate? So you've called for Boris Johnson to resign over Partygate, Kwasi Kwarteng to resign over the budget chaos, Rishi Sunak over tax affairs and COVID fraud losses. You asked for Priti Patel to resign over refugee handling. You asked for Richard Sharp to resign over the Gary Lineker row. He was the BBC chairman. Let's not forget, and we'll get onto this in a minute, you're constantly asking for Robbie Gibb to resign. And you don't want the Chancellor or the PM to resign when they have been found to have lied in a budget.
Well, on all of those previous cases, we have been asking questions before it got to the point that we called for them to resign. I think the case of Rachel Reeves, she hasn't answered questions yet. No, Boris Johnson was asked several times. He was asked questions in Parliament several times over. He was given many occasions to answer questions in the House of Commons chamber.
You were still calling for him to resign before he answered questions in Parliament, though, weren't you?
No, but there were several questions asked.
Is it just because the Lib Dems are quite cosy with Labour and you don't mind it because they're on the left like you are? You'd much rather have a go at righties.
There is absolutely nothing cosy about the Liberal Democrats and Labour right now.
Cosy at
they have
PMQs.
They are bringing in a stealth tax on both households and on high streets. We have called that out. We have slammed their budget as having nothing in it to promote growth, nothing in it to alleviate the cost of living. That isn't a sign of a cosy relationship. That's us being a constructive opposition that holds the government to account.
You say that, Daisy Cooper, but I watched PMQs before the budget was going to be delivered. Now, it had already been pitch-rolled significantly, and people were worried that it was going to be the most tax-raising spending budget in history. It went on and was proved to be so. What does Ed Davey decide to ask a question on of the Prime Minister as his first question as he stands up to address the House? It's about Nigel Farage and Nathan Gill. Now, nail your colours to the mast on this. Nathan Gill, who was the leader of Welsh Reform, has been in prison for 10 years for taking Russian bribes. We now have Ed Davey banging on about it in the House of Commons. What are you saying? Are you accusing Nigel Farage of also taking Russian bribes?
What we're saying is there is a really serious problem of Russian meddling in our democracy.
Right.
And we put pressure on the Prime Minister to call an investigation into Russian interference in our democracy as a whole.
Oh, so not
it was
just
absolutely
reform?
Not just reform, absolutely not. Ed Davey put his question to the Prime Minister, and when the Prime Minister said, oh yes, of course Nigel Farage should investigate this, but said nothing about whether he as Prime Minister would investigate it, you will have seen all of us Liberal Democrats on the benches starting to heckle and respond to the Prime Minister, because we think it's the Prime Minister's duty to hold an investigation into this.
Just to quote Davey in the House, a traitor was at the very top of Reform UK, aiding and abetting a foreign adversary. Nigel Farage and his party are a danger to national security. What evidence have you got to back that up?
The fact that Nathan Gill has just gone to prison.
Yes, but he's no longer in Reform. So why are Nigel Farage and his party now a danger to national security? By implication, you're saying that they're also being paid by Russians? Is that what the Lib Dems are saying?
We're saying that so far they have refused to launch an internal investigation into how this was allowed to happen and whether there's anybody else in their party who had links to him. So we're all putting pressure on Nigel Farage to investigate this. Given that Russia at the moment has invaded Ukraine, they are stealing children, they're abducting children from Ukraine, they're interfering in our democracy.
But by this Liberal Democrat logic, you could conclude a former very high-profile Liberal Democrat, Cyril Smith, who later got found guilty of abusing young boys. Are we saying by implication that all Lib Dems should have been investigated for that at the time that Cyril Smith was exposed?
No, I think what we would say in any situation is where those things have occurred, there has to be investigations into who knew what and when. Is there anybody else that has to be held to account? Okay. That is absolutely fine. But our question was not just about reform. We do think that Nigel Farage should conduct an investigation into how this happened.
But do you think he's taking Russian bribes, yes or no?
I've got absolutely no idea. That isn't an allegation.
That's the implication, isn't it?
That is not the implication. That is not the allegation that we're making.
OK.
We are asking him to do an investigation. What we are also doing is asking the Prime Minister of this country to launch a second Russia report to find out the extent of Russian interference in our democracy in any political party.
All right, no, fair enough. On to the BBC. The other obsession of Ed Davies right now seems to be Robbie Gibb leading a, quote, right-wing conspiracy aided by my newspaper, The Telegraph, and presumably others on the right. He's not neutral or impartial. He needs to go. Well, why didn't the Liberal Democrats make this point when, for instance, Labour advisor and donor Gavin Davies was appointed chairman of the BBC board? Again, is it just because Robbie Gibb is a righty?
No, it's... When Boris Johnson was Prime Minister of this country, he watered down the independent appointments process for the BBC. We Liberal Democrats think it is really important that the BBC, as our national broadcaster, belongs to the British people and not to any political party. So it's really important that now, given that the BBC is found itself in this crisis point, this is an opportunity to make sure that we can make sure that anybody on the board is appointed through an independent process. Now, I'm not entirely clear what that would look like. We can either go back to the system that we used to have.
So if there are lefties on this board, you want them to be ousted as well, do you?
I think anybody who is overtly party political should not be involved in that process.
But people who have been overtly party political have been appointed to the board in the past, including Labour and Liberal Democrats. Look, why didn't you call those appointments out?
Look, what's really important is that in the past there was an independent appointments process where people who even if they had an affiliation, overall the board could be independent.
Everybody knew Robbie Gibb's affiliations. He had worked as communications director to Theresa May for
and many of us have been calling it out for years.
Nothing was hidden. This is the other problem with this kind of quest to get Robbie Gibb removed. It rather overlooks the key findings of both the David Grossman and indeed Michael Prescott report, that the BBC has been biased. Why aren't you more concerned that the national broadcaster lacks impartiality than you are about Robbie Gibb's role in it all?
Oh, we are. We are concerned about this. Look, the fact that...
Because Ed Davey hasn't really mentioned the impartiality issue. He just seems to be going on and on and on about Robbie Gibb.
I think you may have missed something there. The Liberal Democrats have been running a anti-BBC bias campaign for months and months and months.
Well, do you think it's too biased towards the right, though? You're arguing that it showcases reform too much.
We absolutely are. Reform is on there a lot. The statistics are out there about how many times he's been on Question Time. And also, it's not just the number of appearances, it's also whether he's also held to account given the same level of grilling.
How many people voted for reform at the last general election?
How many MPs do they have? Look, we can cut this pie many ways, but he is not given a grilling in the same way that other MPs are as well.
First past the post suits you down to the ground now. So I take it the Liberal Democrats have completely abandoned their quest for proportional representation.
No, we are fully behind calls for proportional representation.
Are you?
Yes, we absolutely
are. Even though when you actually win fewer votes than Reform, you end up with how many seats?
Look, if the last...
64, Reform ends up with 5. you actually got voted in by 600,000 fewer voters.
Yeah, and we still believe in PR because we are principled about making sure that every single vote in this country actually matters.
Here's an idea, Daisy Cooper. You and Reform could do a joint campaign for PR.
That's not going to happen on my watch.
Because they like the idea of PR. Although I'm wondering whether you parties still like the idea of PR, really, when we've kind of ended up with PR by the back door, haven't we, with a kind of multi-party system now with the Greens and your party, or whatever it's called, also involved.
As a point of principle, we Liberal Democrats continue to support calls for a better proportional system so that everybody's vote actually counts.
All right, well, I'm going to get somebody else in the studio now. Thank you very much, Daisy Cooper. And it is great to see you in the studio on GB News. A Liberal Democrat on GB News is a great thing to see. We'll ask Camilla Badenoch whether she might now want to support proportional representation because of the Tories' numbers in the House. Thank you very much. What a show it's proving to be. Stay tuned. Camilla Badenoch's up next.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show. What a show it's proving to be, because in the studio is the leader of the Conservatives, Camilla Badenoch. Lovely to see you this morning. I know you've been going from studio to studio. I'm just going to fill you in on James Murray telling me that it was fine that they were £4.2 billion in surplus and they didn't tell anyone because this is the way that budgets are planned out and she can raise taxes if she wants to. And there was then a to and fro about whether or not there was a 20 billion black hole. Well, that's what officials briefed to the media. So can we just clear this up? Because you're the leader of the opposition. Were you given the impression that there was a 20 billion black hole in Britain's finances on November the 4th?
It was a big press conference
the Cheerios briefing. You may remember. I was giving a speech that day, and I had to stop what I was doing to watch it. And I just thought, what on earth was that? Why is she doing this? She knew exactly what she was doing. She was trying to pitch-roll higher taxes. She was trying to send a signal to the markets. This is why we have written a letter to the Financial Conduct Authority. We think there may have been some market abuse. But the bottom line, Camilla, is that she told a lie. She said that there wasn't any money. The OBR said that there was, and it's shown evidence that they had told her that. She wanted to raise money for welfare. And that's what she did.
Okay.
This was a bung for benefits.
On this FCA investigation that you've recommended along with Mel Stride, Dan Hodges has pointed out in the Mail on Sunday that if you are found to have misled the markets, criminal sanctions for insider dealing and market manipulation can incur custodial sentences of up to 10 years and unlimited fines. I mean, it sounds improbable, the idea of a chancellor going to jail about this.
The thing is, if a CEO had behaved like this before they gave an annual report, that's what would be happening. Just coming out, saying things to try and get the bond markets to treat you a little bit more nicely so you can find money for welfare benefits. That is absolutely wrong. But the worst thing is that she's raised taxes now on a lot of working people who are now paying for benefits when they're struggling themselves. Telegraph today talks about £18,000 worse off, the families that are not on benefits. The average family that she's given money to is getting an extra £5,000. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
500,000 families, Rachel Reeves has given an extra £5,000. We think that's wrong, and that's why we would reverse the cap.
We'll get on to welfare in just a minute, because I do want to ask you about your own plans to slash welfare. But on the Chancellor and now the PM, the revelation on the front of the Sunday Tell, he also knew that we were £4.2 billion in surplus. So should they both go?
If he knew, as I tweeted this morning, then yes, he is just as implicated. Because let's remember,
you can't really, this is the trouble. You can say all this, it's rhetoric. You can't really do anything about it. It's the same with Nigel Farage saying, there could be an early general election in 2027. What levers can either of you pull?
Well, what we can do is what Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, has done today. Ask that the Financial Conduct Authority investigate. They may find that we're correct. They may decide that maybe they had just cause. But what I think is really awful is that a lot of people heard what they said. There were some people who drew down their pension because they were worried about what was going to happen. Some people left the country, I'm hearing, because of the talk about the exit tax. Others were fixing their mortgages because they thought it was going to be, so terrible. She came out there, she held that press conference telling everyone that she was going to raise taxes, changed her mind 3 days later, and is now creating, just a gigantic welfare state, which we cannot afford.
All right, well, let's get on to that, because the criticism of the Tories in all this will be as follows, right? It's all very well you now talking about tax cuts. You put up taxes 20 different times when you were in office. It was a big tax and spend administration. You actually left a tax burden of 36.1% when Rishi Sunak left office. Meanwhile, welfare, again, it went up under the Conservatives. If you now look at this welfare bill scheduled to go up by 70 billion by the end of Parliament, so it's going to be at £403 billion. James Murray couldn't confirm or deny that, but that's the truth of the statistics. You saying that you're going to cut, 27 billion? No, 23 billion off welfare. It's not even going to touch the sides. You're going to have to go far further than that commitment.
So let me first of all start by saying I'm not here to say that everything we did in government was perfect. It absolutely
let's hope not,
was
because
not.
The audience will be throwing things at the telly if you say that.
We made mistakes. That's the difference between us and Labour, is that I can stand up and say that previous Conservative governments made mistakes. We've got to own up to that. Here are some of the mistakes we made. We put up taxes too high, and here's how we're going to fix it. That is my job. I can't just say, we made mistakes, so, let's just cry into our soup. There are people out there who need solutions. And you're right. What we're talking about is £47 billion. So we're not rushing out with lots of
£47 billion
in terms of savings. It's the 23 billion comes from welfare.
I know,
it's actually
but
£47 billion.
Do you agree with me now that 23 billion isn't enough? Even Jeremy Hunt who seems to have become more right-wing since he left the Treasury, has suggested that if you restore working age benefits back to what they were pre-pandemic, you'll automatically save 47 billion.
Yes, that's
so
what
I'm
we're
saying, pardon the pun, you're being too conservative with your welfare cuts.
Well, that 47 billion is what I'm talking about. We're starting in a sensible place. Let's go back to 2019 levels. But remember, Camilla, we are the only party that is doing this. Labour, Lib Dems, Reform, SNP, Greens, Plaid, they all wanted that two-child benefit cap lifted. All of them did. So there's only one party that's talking about living within our means.
In Reform's defence, and they've issued a briefing paper about this, they are saying that they want to encourage the birth rate among British citizens. We agree, don't we? We're in a population crisis. Immigrants are having a lot of children. Indigenous Brits, if we can call them that, aren't. So Farage is saying we want to scrap the cap if, and these are the qualifications, both parents are working, both are British citizens. Now, that caveats that policy somewhat, doesn't it?
Do you know what? It may caveat some bits of the policy, but it doesn't address the real issue, which is that we are not growing as an economy. We need growth policies. We didn't see that in the budget. Reform are now caveating this now because they didn't realise what they'd announced previously. And this is what we always get with them. They say stuff and then they get a realisation that it doesn't work that way, and then they scrabble to try and fix it. We had that cap in place for a good reason. I know, a lot of people make decisions not to have more children that they can't afford. They should not then be paying for other people to have those children.
But then you need to find some kind of magic formula. I asked my brilliant producer, Elizabeth, who does a lot of the research for this show, to find out what the growth rate was in the post-war period, OK? National Institute of Economic and Social Research, it estimated that growth fell from 3.4% a year in the post-war period up to 1973, OK? Then it was up to 2.3% until the 2008 financial crisis. It's averaged 1.2% since. So growth has been sclerotic, anaemic, whatever word you want to choose, under the Tories, as it has under Labour. Liz Truss tries to do something about this, and the budget blows up in her face. So why will you be any different?
Because we are starting from a principle of balancing the books. The reason why that mini budget went wrong is because it had £150 billion of spending on people's energy bills without explaining how we'd pay for it. It was too much spending, not enough when we should have been cutting spending. This is the same thing Labour is doing. A lot of people think that budget didn't work because of tax cuts. It was too much spending. We are saying now, we have our golden economic rule, we're going to make savings, we use the savings to pay down the deficit and tax cuts. We balance the books.
You're not going to be able to afford to scrap stamp duty now, are you? If you got into power in 3 to 4 years' time,
yes, we can.
Totally unaffordable.
Yes, we can. And it is because stamp duty, like many other taxes, actually depresses growth. People aren't buying houses. The housing market is completely gummed up. People aren't buying houses. They're not downsizing, and you know that means a lot of people starting out their first family want their first home. Sorry, not their first family, get their first home.
Yes.
They're just not buying.
Yeah.
You scrap stamp duty, there are more jobs. People,
it's expensive. How much does it cost to scrap stamp duty?
Well, we had a cautious estimate, about 10 billion. That is cautious. I honestly believe that it won't cost that much, but we're starting with a cautious estimate because we are responsible.
Okay.
Stamp duty will help grow the economy. People hire decorators, they have housing extensions, or they start buying things in the shops. We need to stimulate growth. There are other taxes, like what they're doing on family farms, genuinely going to disrupt farming in our country.
I suppose I'm making the overall point.
Those sorts of things that they brought in.
I'm making the overall point that you're making the point that this budget has been sort of economy ruining and ruinous and will continue to be ruinous. We've got working families now, according to the Sunday Express and that CSJ report, having to earn 71 grand in order to compete with the family on benefits.
Yes, that's crazy.
Whoever gets in next time is going to inherit one hell of a mess.
Yes.
And therefore you're all going to have to downgrade your own plans to deal with the inheritance that you then get. But just drop that for a second because we're running out of time here. And I do want to ask you about Kevin Hollingworth's tweet. This guy is your chairman. You're facing the fight of your life next May and then at the next general election. Why have you got a chairman that is tweeting ridiculous things likening reform to the Nazis?
Kevin Hollenrake is a fantastic chairman. 100% back him. I thought it was funny. Maybe not other people would have found it funny. He didn't call anybody Nazis. Reform needs to stop saying this. The implication is that they don't pay attention to a lot of the things they say.
Well, I saw Fulham FC last night on the telly. They've got a black shirt with a gold badge.
Yeah, but they're not a political party. They're not a political party, and nobody called them Nazis. This is a lot of crybaby behaviour, which we need to stop.
Well, do you think Reform is in any way Nazi adjacent?
No. But if someone does something, we can say, well, this has happened in history. Look at that. It's Twitter. He made a joke. People might not find it funny, but right now, what's really important is what's happening to all those people out there who are worried about them, worried about their money.
Why is Hollenrake tweeting such nonsense?
Because it's Twitter. People put memes. People make jokes.
Did you sanction him? Did you say anything to Kevin? Actually, please don't do this.
No, absolutely not. I thought it was funny. I stand by him. Kevin Hollenrake is one of the people who's helping me do a better job, so I won't have a single word said against him. He's a great chairman.
You didn't forensically analyse her budget. You were just making personal barbs.
That's not true. She clearly wasn't listening. I spent 20 minutes talking about how growth was down, all of the mistakes she'd made, how she needed to cut spending. But
were you a bit too nasty?
No, I was doing my job. She had a swipe at me at the last budget. She doesn't remember that. They called... Do you remember when they were calling Liz Truss a lettuce? They didn't think that was nasty, did they?
No,
these are people who are hypocrites.
Well, politics is quite nasty.
Yes,
and on that subject...
We will give as good as we get.
All right, final question as well, because The Guardian has been poring over Nigel Farage's schoolboy days and suggested that he was both an anti-Semite and in some way racist. Do you think he's racist?
Well, I think that these are things that happened long before I was born. He's got questions to answer. Does
something you say as a teenager make you racist? You must have been subject to some pretty choice
if you haven't
words
changed
in the 1980s.
If you haven't changed, and I think the question is, has he changed or not? And I think that is a legitimate question. People will ask about your past. People ask about all sorts of stuff that happened long before I was an MP. And when it doesn't matter, or when I can say, it doesn't matter, I've changed. I thought it was a joke. I played this prank and so on, but I can explain that. He needs to explain himself. It's not my job to defend him. He's a big boy. He can go out and defend himself.
I know, but you might have a greater perspective than most on it because you're a black woman. But I think he's a racist.
Well, I think that the gentleman who said that Nigel Farage tormented him throughout the time that he was in school and that really impacted his life, he should probably apologise for that, at the very least. I think he should apologise for that.
Kemi Badenoch, thank you very much indeed for joining me in the studio once again. Great to see you.
Thank you, Camilla.
Thank you. Well, let's get the reaction from Richard Tice to some of those allegations and also find out what the Deputy Leader of Reform UK makes of the budget. How would Reform do things differently? That's all coming up next. And don't forget, we're speaking to Sir Tim Martin, the Chief of Wetherspoons, to find out how the budget has affected his pubs, pint prices and his customers. Stay tuned.
Good morning. This is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a quite bright and cool last day of November, but as we head into winter, it is going to start to turn a lot more unsettled as we start December. But for today at least, we have some nice bright sunny spells across much of the UK. It will be quite a chilly start across Scotland, maybe some icy patches here, and maybe just a few odd showers just drifting in towards the western coast as well. But otherwise, a much more settled day than what we saw at the first half of the weekend. Some nice sunshine, but it will feel rather chilly despite that sun. Much of the temperatures not really getting any higher than those mid-single figures, maybe just a little bit milder across the southwest. But all eyes then turn towards this band of rain that is starting to move in from the west. We will start to see that cloud drifting in towards the west country through the evening. But clearer skies remain across the southeast, but then you'll see this rain moving in towards Northern Ireland through the early part of the evening and just slowly starting to drift in towards western Scotland as well. But further towards the east, it will be a cold end towards Sunday. Temperatures here may even struggle to get above freezing to end Sunday as well. Like I said, this band of rain will slowly start to move its way eastwards through the evening period and overnight, and we do have some weather warnings in force to start December. So we have yellow warnings across the southwest and the northwest, but we have this amber warning across the southern part of Wales as well. So expect some flooding. There is going to be disruption to travel as well, so please do take care if you are looking to travel around first thing on Monday morning. But with this rain, it is going to be a windy day as well. Those strong winds coming up from the southwest. We could even again see some coastal gales across the West Country coast as well. But that rain is still going to remain pretty strong through much of the day, but temperatures possibly just a couple of degrees above what we saw on Sunday.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. I hope you're enjoying the show. I certainly am. What fun we've had this morning, and there's more fun to come now because we've got Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, in the studio.
Good morning.
Mr. Tice, right. James Murray reckons it's fine that she didn't tell the public about the 4.2 billion in surplus that she had, courtesy of the OBR, on November the 4th, because it's a process and she can arrange things as she wants, and she wanted more fiscal headroom, which is why they put up tax.
What it was a car crash, and the third car crash this Chancellor has presided over. The first one being the budget 2024, the second car crash being the run-up to this budget, when people literally stopped spending, stopped investing, stopped hiring people, and then the budget itself was a car crash. The Chancellor's shown herself, frankly, to be an untrustworthy learner driver.
Right, so she should go.
Frankly,
Before we crash even more.
Well, basically, confidence is absolutely shattered in her competence, in the numbers, in the huge increase in borrowing forecast by the OBR in just 6 months. I mean, 21 billion more is forecast to be borrowed in this financial year alone. That's over £600 per household, extra debt. So, yeah, confidence is shattered, and frankly, we need a new Chancellor in order to restore confidence in our economy.
Do we need a new Prime Minister? We now find out from the Sunday Telegraph and indeed the Mail on Sunday have splashed that the PM knew about the 4.2 billion surplus as well.
They were clearly making political decisions to prop up the hard left on their deeply socialist party and to increase welfare spending hugely by an extra £16 billion a year by the end of this sort of financial forecast 5-year period. I mean, just to put that in context, that's over £600 per working household extra money that working families will have to spend on welfare for those people who are not setting their alarm clock at 5 or 6 in the morning and going to work.
But then, as you know, some people are claiming benefits who also work, and that's at the plank. It's kind of the justification for your own decision to support the scrapping of the two-child cap, right?
On working families,
so
two parents.
So you're saying two parents, both must be working.
And those who are on low incomes, and that's because, of course, all of this is because income tax thresholds have been frozen for many years, and this government's now going to freeze them for longer. Whereas our aspiration, when we've cut the vast amount of wasteful spending, is to lift that income tax threshold so you can make work pay. That's the critical thing in society. It's got to pay to go to work, and for too many people, they're trapped on welfare.
Isn't there just an argument that if the welfare bill is going to be 70 billion higher at the end of this parliament...
It shouldn't be. There's no argument for that.
But it is going to be, because that's the reality of Labour in power right now, Richard Tice, and it's going to hit 403 billion by the end of parliament. I think it's scheduled for 3031, OK? 403 billion quid. Although it's a noble aim, and I presume you're doing it because you're trying to increase the indigenous British population.
But the cost to us of about our policy is about 300 million a year. It's literally a tiny drop in the ocean. Much better is to actually start saving money on welfare.
But
for example, we shouldn't be paying any welfare.
Have babies?
Well, that's part.
Why are you doing it?
Because we want more working families, British families, to have babies. But at the same time, you cut welfare by stopping paying foreign nationals any welfare payments. If people came here to work, the clue's in the word work.
Yeah.
And so you've got to do that. We've got to have a higher international health surcharge. We've got to cut the vast amount of grotesquely wasteful foreign aid spending. We discover we're sending tens and tens of millions of pounds to people like the Lebanese police force and to Turkey. This is insane.
Although some people say that your near $9 billion slashing of the foreign aid budget could result in more immigration to the UK, ironically.
Completely the opposite. What it will do, actually, is say to people, we're going to look after British citizens. We're not going to be a soft touch to regimes all over the world who are, frankly, just laughing at us as they steal our money, as they take our money.
Quick question on Nathan Gill. Daisy Cooper, the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrats, is in here calling for an investigation into any of you taking Russian money. Are any of you taking Russian money?
Of course not. It's just ridiculous.
Well, why won't you have an investigation?
What we've called for. I'll tell you what, we've got nothing to hide. What we've called for, let's have an investigation into all overseas interference into politics. And do you know where that starts? It starts with China and their relationship with the Labour Party.
You're actually agreeing with the Lib Dems, then, because she wants to... We've
called for a full inquiry into all overseas interference. And I tell you what, the reason Labour won't do it, as the government of the day, is because it will expose their close links to the Chinese regime. Whether it's giving away the Chagos Islands, whether it's the collapse of the spy case, whether it's a senior MP receiving hundreds of thousands...
Can we talk about Russians for a minute?
Talk about who you want. I mean...
just to channel... God help us, my inner Alistair Campbell and Carol Cadwallader.
Lucky you.
If there's nothing to see here and there are no links between the Russians and reform, you may as well carry out a comprehensive and robust independent investigation yourselves.
No one would trust an inquiry. Have a national inquiry into all overseas interference. The reason the government won't do that is because of their links to China. And, of course, the collapse of the spy case. And now we've got the mega embassy that's about to be approved, we think, next month.
OK. Kemi Badenoch has suggested that Nigel Farage, if he did make a Jewish schoolboy feel uncomfortable and the victim of anti-Semitism while they were at Dulwich College, that he should actually turn around to this bloke and apologise. Yes, he may have said it as a young man. I appreciate that what we say in our teenage years isn't necessarily something that we carry through. Some people, for instance, are socialists when they're teenagers and then become righties when they
start paying tax.
When they're over the age of 40. But to be very serious about this, an allegation of anti-Semitism that Nigel Farage was going around saying to Jewish students jokes about gassing Jews is totally unacceptable, isn't it?
And it is completely unacceptable. But the point is, there is no one who has stood up for the Jewish community more than Reform UK. We were the first people who called for these hideous pro-Palestine marches to be banned.
But why doesn't he apologise to this BAFTA-winning director?
Because he's very... These allegations are 49 years old. Why weren't they made 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 50? I'll tell you why, because they're made up.
No,
they're absolutely made up.
To be fair, Michael Crick, who I interviewed on my other outlet, the Daily Tea podcast for The Telegraph, he wrote a book about this because he had done a Channel 4 Dispatches documentary about whether or not Nigel Farage was, quotes, racist. He concluded, and let's be honest, I don't think Michael Crick is necessarily aligned to Reform or indeed Nigel Farage, that he wasn't racist, but he had been anti-Semitic when he was younger. So he needs to own that, doesn't he?
No, I don't think he needs to own anything at all like that. Look, the reality is that these allegations are made up by people with a serious political bias who don't want Nigel to be Prime Minister. And
so any
it's funny how these people
made of any of you, you can just brush it off saying it's
biased.
Can
you remember what you said 49 years ago?
I can remember most things. I don't think I ever went around joking about gassing the Jews. Not least because I was at school.
I think all of this. I think this is
I don't think
nonsense.
I'd ever have said anything like this.
I think this is all nonsense. I don't think any of us would have said things. I think this is just made up by people who've got a serious political axe to grind, and I'm just not tolerating it.
Has the BBC got an axe to grind? There's an interesting revelation in today's paper that the BBC skewed its reporting of the resignations of politicians, featuring 96% of Reform resignations, but only 26% of the other two parties.
Actually, it's only about 15% across the Labour and Conservatives. So, yeah, the BBC have shown themselves to be, once again, completely biased against Reform, reporting on 95% where we've had councillor changes, but only 15% where Labour and the Conservatives... What I'm reading into that is that they are deliberately trying to make us look bad they've never shown such a close interest in local council politics, nor has any other of the journalists.
Well, maybe reform councillors are more controversial than others.
Far from it. Actually, we're doing a great job in saving hundreds of millions of pounds. I've identified the mismanagement and scandalous underperformance of the local government pension schemes, potentially over £1 billion a year of improvement of performance just in our councils alone, if we can get on top of that. So we're actually making great strides. I've also talked about the overdiagnosis in SEN.
Well,
I know that's
received death threats for that.
And I received a death threat for that. And, sometimes you have to talk about uncomfortable, difficult issues.
Do you think it's been hijacked by parents who are abusing the system?
Too many people the well-intentioned system to look after the genuinely needy children, I'm afraid, in too many cases, is now being abused.
Richard Tice, we need to leave it there, unfortunately. I was going to ask you very quickly, yes or no question, do you still support proportional representation?
We support proportional representation as a principle with a proper minimum threshold.
All right, Richard Tice, thank you very much, as ever, for a spiky and spicy interview in the studio. Now, let's get on to other matters, because after the break, well, it's not really other matters, but it's a businessman's reaction to the budget, which I think is a valuable one, because the chair and founder of Wetherspoons, Sir Tim Martin, is going to join me next. Don't go anywhere.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, and this is your holiday forecast from the Met Office. It's a little bit changeable across Europe over the next week or so. We do have a few showers across the Canary Islands to begin with, but some nice bright sunshine for Spain, maybe just feeling a little bit cooler than normal here. For northern Italy, we do have some heavier showers to begin with, and we do have some nice bright sunnier spells for Greece. Now, it does remain a bit unchangeable over the next few days, but for Tenerife, the temperatures are slowly on the rise.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So proud of GB News for getting, and Bev of course, for getting the interview. But the real important message from all of it was, of course, President Trump's attack on the BBC. I've been proven wrong because I tweeted a couple of days ago, it just shows how much I know. I tweeted that I thought President Trump might accept the apology from the BBC as an off-ramp and say, look, I want to be the nice guy here. I don't want to sting the great British public who, of course, pay the licence fee and who would ultimately be funding any settlement or court fees. So I thought he might use that as an off-ramp. But nope, we got into the Roosevelt room in the White House. Bev sat down with him. I was standing just behind Bev listening to the whole interview. And even before we went live with the interview and started recording, he was so shocked, angry, and more than anything, actually, confused as to why the BBC would behave like that. He just couldn't believe, not that, on one occasion, fine, maybe it could be a mistake, but the second time, the Newsnight incident just proved that, in his mind, it was intentional, it was institutional bias. There's a clip there of, a photo, there of us in the Oval Office. It was an amazing experience, Nana, of course, just being in that room. Once we finished the interview, President Trump came over to us and said hello and asked if we'd like to see his office and the Oval Office. And yeah, stepping into that room, the history, you can feel it, the soul of the place, the grandeur, the gold as well that President Trump has installed all over the room. He's received some criticism for his use of sort of gold decor across the White House, but I have to say it was extraordinary. And it didn't stop there. He then invited Bev and I and some of the crew out onto the Rose Garden patio. There was American music playing, which was very funny. And we had a quick glimpse down at the presidential Hall of Fame, just from the top of the patio there.
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock.
only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. Joining me now is founder and chair of Wetherspoons, Sir Tim Martin. Sir Tim, lovely to see you this morning. Do you know what? I might head straight out of the studio into a Wetherspoons and have a pint or two, because it's been quite the gruelling morning discussing the budget. How do you think it's affected businesses?
Well, I think the budget taken in isolation was very bad for pubs, but it's really part of a continuum, a bigger picture over the last 20, 30 years. Pubs have got a massive VAT disadvantage versus supermarkets. Business rates are far higher per pint. Excise duty, although supermarkets pay the same price, is much higher than any other place in Europe. And the labour costs, which are a much higher percentage of our sales than for supermarkets, have gone up. So the big picture is that pubs have lost 50% of their beer trade since the year 2000. So the pub as it used to be is very heavily challenged. And yesterday, for reasons best known to herself, the Chancellor promised help for pubs. And as anyone can see from picking up a newspaper, when publicans have looked into it, they've seen there's no help at all. In fact, their costs are going to go up.
What's the impact of the minimum wage going up once again, Sir Tim?
Well, we haven't produced any figures on this, and we're not as affected as some, because, for example, we've always paid, or we've for at least 10 years, 18 to 21-year-olds the same as people who are older. But it's going up a lot. I've seen figures from a company which is bigger than us, which reported our results yesterday, and they said the overall cost increase in the year is 130 million quid, and it's a 6% increase in what they call their cost base. And I think that's the cost base for pubs that's rising faster than supermarkets, that's peeving off even Telegraph readers who don't like to pay 7 quid a pint when they can pay 1.50 or 2 quid in the supermarket. That's, in a nutshell, the problem that pubs have in the modern world. Traditionally, pubs have been the place where people go out in the UK, and lots of other countries they don't. The tax system now is conspiring to make us like Sweden, where there aren't that many pubs, if we're not careful.
Very briefly, Sir Tim, because sadly we are running out of time. Everyone's overrun. But just finally, you're obviously famed for having low prices at Wetherspoons, not just your pints, but also your big breakfasts and all the rest of it. Can you keep costs down? Can you keep prices down with this economic outlook?
With a boast on live television, if anyone can, I can, Camilla. I'm going to try. But
I take it it's getting harder and harder by the year to make your business profitable.
For sure. I mean, our business, we're doing very well. We're 20% lower, 30% lower than we were in 2019, having invested, a few hundred million quid. So it's tough, but we're doing okay. The industry as a whole is struggling a lot.
All right, Sir Tim, we'll leave it there, but I think the message to the public is go to the pub tonight, spend a bit of money and help out publicans. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thanks, Camilla.
Thank you. Well, somebody who doesn't mind the odd pint is Michael Portillo, who's often tasting alcohol in his show. I have to be very dry, both in my performance and my grilling of MPs. Michael, what's coming up?
Well, of course, we will be celebrating St Andrew's Day, although I'm not thinking of drinking in the studio today. I'm going to be asking my panel whether it's just simply naive to expect politicians not to lie. Is it just part of democracy? And Camilla, sadly, the author of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead is dead. And so we're going to be paying tribute to the magnificent playwright, Sir Tom Stoppard. That's all on my show, which begins at 11 o'clock, Camilla.
Enjoying all of that to come. Thank you very much indeed. Stay tuned at 11 for Michael Portillo. That's me done for another day. I think I may take a little lie down in a darkened room to recover from what we've listened to this morning and to try and cover the fallout from the budget. And we'll continue to do that on GB News. So stay tuned all day beyond Michael's show at 11 to watch everybody that's coming up on this Sunday. I'm going to be back this time next week, so 9:30. Michael Portillo's next, but a bit of weather in between. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next week.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Yes, there'll be a few showers around for some of us today, but for most it's a fine end to autumn with some sunshine. It will turn wet and windy though from the northwest later today and more particularly tomorrow, and that's courtesy of this frontal system moving in from the southwest. An amber warning for heavy rain across South Wales already in place for Monday. But back to Sunday afternoon though, and it's a lovely sunny picture out there for most of us. Blue skies across for many areas, just one or two showers mainly on North Sea coasts and some around Wales and Irish Sea coasts as well. But for most there'll be some pleasant spells of sunshine, lighter winds than yesterday as well, and whilst chilly, temperatures in the mid-single figures in some northern areas, it shouldn't feel too bad in that sunshine. As we go into this evening, there'll still be one or two showers around across the south and the southwest, but these mostly isolated, so temperatures quickly falling away after dark underneath those clearing skies. Further west though, winds already starting to pick up across Northern Ireland, turning cloudy and wet with some heavy bursts of rain pushing in here, and that rain coming into western Scotland as well later this evening. Further east though, underneath the clearing skies, an early frost developing for some eastern parts of Scotland. Now through the course of the night we'll see that wind starting to freshen, turning windy in the west with gales developing through the early hours and turning increasingly wet for many areas as well. Weather warnings coming into place, yellow warnings for rain in some western parts of England and Wales, and an amber warning for rain developing across South Wales. So a very wet but milder end to the night for some of us, and it will lead into a windy and wet start to the day on Monday. So coastal gales for most of the day across the west, as I say, and some particularly heavy spells of rain running northwards across parts of Wales, northwestern parts of England, southwest Scotland. The rain tending to ease from Scotland and Northern Ireland otherwise though. Some brighter skies here with some sunny spells and just a few showers. And look at these temperatures tomorrow, much milder than of late, highs of 12 or 13 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For a chance to win